Starting the stream. Audience will see. And hey, we're live. Hello,
Hey.
everybody. You know me. Okay, no, you don't, but you know who I am. I'm Issa J. And yeah, I'm back on Skele Ton Productions. It's been a few weeks of nice, good build, but now we're back where we belong, to say the least. And then, yeah, as you can see, there's more people here than just myself. Tell us about who you are for these guys.
I'm Landry, Issa J's friend, and also his partner, one of those three partners working with the Small Pressing Alliance channel. Go check that out. That's affiliated with this. And I'm here to do a Geeky podcast with him. He was really begging me to do it, so I felt sorry for him. So I'm coming here to help him.
He's not wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been complete geeks for years. And we, or at least I've always been wanting to express that. And it was really cool to have a really good friend join in this endeavor. So let's just quickly talk about what this show is going to be. And obviously we have a different looking setup, split screen. We are sitting across from each other, so that way we can look at you, the audience, and each other easily. Then
I thought we were just sitting next to each other. The split screen is so seamless.
Right?
Yeah.
And then next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a topic, and then we're going to focus in and really dive in on a specific item of that topic.
Get to the bones.
Get to the bare bones
bones
of this geeky podcast.
Is that we'd say the name of this podcast?
We haven't yet.
Yes. Okay.
Let everyone know what is our podcast called.
It is the Bare Bones Geeky Podcast.
Yes, the Bare
on
Bones
the
Geeky
Skeleton-
Podcast
on the Skele Ton Productions YouTube channel.
Yes, indeed it is.
Yes.
We're gonna go everywhere in geek culture, from DC, Marvel, Star Wars, manga, anime,
Probably not Star
books.
Trek. Do you know anything about Star Trek?
Very few, but we'll get there too. Like
so.
mainly, there's a lot of geeky stuff I don't know about, and a lot of geeky stuff you don't know about.
Yes.
And that's basically what this show is about, for us to get to the bare bones of all of it. So that we do research and really focus in and hone in on what it is we want to talk about. But this week, it's episode 1, and you guys don't know who we are just yet, fully. And episode 1 is about us. We're going to talk to you about us. In order to focus in, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about our first exposure to the geeky lifestyle, our favorite things about the geeky lifestyle, and why we are still in the geeky lifestyle. And I feel like that's a good way to let you guys at home know just how much geeks we are. Obviously, if you can see the way we dress and the way we look, we're geeks. Liam here has a Batman shirt on with the
Villains, the
Batman.
rogue galleries.
Yes.
Playing poker.
And I look like Jay.
Yes, that's his lifestyle.
Minus a few things, but
It's like Christian J.
yes, if Jay was a Christian geek. But yeah, so let's just jump right into it. But after each and every episode, we will let you guys know what we're going to be talking about in next week's episode in a broad category, and then we'll get focused in and honed in when next week premieres. All right, this week it's about us. would you like to go first, or would you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first.
All right, and don't hesitate to chime in and ask away, and I'm going to do the same. All right, so I'm Issa J, and I've been a geek all my life. Yeah, I felt like a lot of Alcoholics Anonymous there.
Yeah, I was about to say something like that. Except you wouldn't say all your life, Alcoholics Anonymous. But whatever it is.
Yeah.
A means like I'm Liam Landry. I've been an alcoholic for my whole life. Took whiskey in the bottle.
Yes. But yeah, I first really got exposure to it when Power Rangers was on. I've been a huge Power Ranger fan since then. Almost caught up to the current Ranger team right now. I've done a lot of research, and I love what Power Rangers is and what it has become over the years. Also, I absolutely love the Japanese Sentai series, which Power Rangers was inspired and taken from. So there's that. Also, a heavy introduction into anime with Digimon and not Yu-Gi-Oh! Inuyasha and Case Closed. Those really shaped me for where I would start watching more series in the future. And yeah, just a couple of other things along the way, like the Marvel stuff, especially Spider-Man, and a lot of the gothic geeky stuff like vampires and stuff like that. So that's what got me started down this road. What about you, sir?
With starting, I can't ever think of an exact time. I watched Power Rangers because I was popular at that time when I was a kid. But I think my first one would probably be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big fan of that. I do remember and have some pictures of multiple Halloweens dressing up as, Donatello, my favorite of the group. And there's also Batman. I was a big fan of that, and Gargoyles, which is the Disney Channel's kind of answer to Batman in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I've always seen Gargoyles around. Never got to really check it out.
Yeah. I definitely remember big things like Batman Sub-Zero. That was a big thing that got me to be a big fan of Mr. Freeze as a character. One of the very first, very early Batman stuff I really remember well. And then there's other stuff, the Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, obviously, Toonami. So it's a lot of pretty, I would say, common ones when it comes to gaming. My family, my older brother had an NES since even before I was born, and that's just kind of what I grew up with. And
you can keep talking.
And during the whole time, the whole console wars and things of that nature, that kind of really flew over me. I was just okay with my NES, Punch Out, Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers, Double Dragons. Yeah, there's a lot of ones like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's Game Boy as well. Then I eventually got into PlayStation 2 though, so I didn't even do the very first PlayStation.
Yeah.
So it's very normal for the most part.
Yeah. Mine was very hesitated. A lot of it had to do with watching stuff growing up, and even then it wasn't as much as what a lot of people end up growing up with today. And I didn't even get a console until it was my 360 Elite, which it was about 6 months after it even released when I finally got the Elite. So, but then I got to play Gears of War and a couple of other things. Not really get into the gamer side of it all, which I would absolutely love to. But I did have a Game Boy. I got to play a lot of games on that one.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first times I ever heard of was Legend of Zelda. Was with you guys, was you or maybe someone else. I think y'all were playing that, and I was just trying to understand what it is. And I think I was asking, okay, so the character you play is Zelda, and it's like, no, it's Link. And it's like, why isn't it the Legend of Link then?
That's like a whole episode in and of itself.
Yeah, because while it was, I had the NES, it didn't have that. I had the Final Fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah, the first American one, third Japanese one.
Okay.
That's the same thing.
That's one of the franchises I never actually got to play, and I just hear great things from it, and I've always wanted to because I love RPGs. The other one is the one where I played the very, very beginning 3 times, always choosing the same exact thing with you in PlayStation 2, and that was Kingdom Hearts. You had the first one on PS2, and we got to play for a while. And it was so funny how each and every time I got home, I would pick the same weapon, pick the same champion next to me, and pick the same everything. Beat the whole intro, and then my mom would come pick me up, which was right after. It was always so funny. Yeah. And it's very interesting that you and I never really got to hang out outside of our Cub Scout stuff or Boy Scouts very much growing up. But later on down the years, we end up growing a lot closer. Yes, so now we're going to talk about our most favorite stuff. Not just childhood, but overall, and why we're still in it. A couple from you, sir.
I'd start off with Batman. Of course, the Batman animated series, and then it's a lot of the Batman movies. I've seen most of the movies. Surprisingly, the one I've ended up missing and haven't gone back to is The Dark Knight. I've seen the other 2 around it, but not just the second one. And it's just one of those things where I have not been just able to go back to it. I've always tried, but I like a lot of the modern DC animated universe as well. Yeah. So I have a lot of really good movies for that. So that's a big thing still being a part of. Star Wars, that was another big thing. It is not as nearly as passionate as a lot of other people are, but it was still a big thing from childhood to modern times. I remember, going there with my father, to the movies to see with my dad. And, of course, he saw it when it originally came out. And I'm talking about the prequels that we saw, of course, age-wise, and being into it. I remember that I don't even want to go back to rewatch the prequels because I don't want it to. Because, when you see it as a kid, everything as a kid is pretty good. And you don't want to go back and ruin it. I was still a fan of it. But I'm not going to go out and say every movie there is great and be super hyped to see the next one, because it's really the original trilogy is the only ones that last. But so there's that. There's still Pokemon. I didn't keep going for it. I had a Game Boy, but never got any other ones like the Game Boy Advance or anything. So I kind of went out from there. And then from I think Generation 5 brought me back in to buy a 3DS.
That's cool.
And get that one, and Generation 6, which was another big thing I was hyped with. And so I got back into those, and I got all the games now, or at least remakes of the originals. So that's big things going now. There's also general fantasy stuff. I kind of wrap them up a little bit because they all kind of hit the similar notes when it comes to, say, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Elder Scrolls. They kind of hit that romanticized medieval setting. That they do things differently in them, but they still have similar ideas. That's another big one. When I was younger, Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah,
totally. Going every December to go see that.
Yeah, one of the most iconic films of all time. I have a very interesting relationship with Lord of the Rings. I saw the second half of the Two Towers first. That was my first exposure to it, and I was just, that's what really got me into fantasy, because yes, it is a science fiction fantasy, Star Wars is, and massive fan. I think I'm more of a fan of Star Wars than you are, because my parent, which is my godfather, down up in Louisiana where we are, gave me the original trilogy on VHS, and I would watch those all the time. Loved them. Yoda, it's like my top favorite character of all time. Do or do not, there is no try. I was always a huge Luke Skywalker fan, even the whiny Luke Skywalker I was a fan of, where people were like, oh, New Hope version of him sucks. So I never thought that at all. That's his beginnings. He was a teenager. Of course he's going to have angst. And then his journey from there is amazing. Which is why we have choice words about The Last Jedi.
Yeah, well, it'd be good to look at the idea that it's not a liking of Luke in New Hope, but it's showing that he has to transition, so he has to have a starting point.
Exactly.
And sometimes stories don't have that, or they don't have the character be shitty at the beginning in order to be good at the end. So they don't change, and that's something that's lost in a lot of the ways.
Yeah. And then also, but yeah, going back to my point, then I finally convinced my mom to go down in Blockbuster, which when it was still around, to get the first one, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and I loved it. I love the soundtrack. I love the scores. I love the story, and just watching the hobbits and everyone else and what happens to them in the end. It just blew my mind, and the special effects was amazing as well. So there's all of that going for it. Power Rangers, I've been a fan from childhood and still am a fan today. And I love the unity, which is what keeps me going back to Power Rangers. It's different diversities and different walks of life coming together to have a common goal, which nowadays you don't even see. Like, look on Twitter, look on YouTube, there's always dissension, like on the news. But Power Rangers, you could come from any walks of life, you could be any race, you could be any person, and as long as you're fighting for good, for protection of your loved ones, that's all the real unity you need, because then you get to learn more about another person. I remember a Power Ranger episode that I didn't even knew existed, where it was a Christmas episode, and you had the Chinese tradition, or the Vietnamese tradition from Trini. You had the African American tradition from Zach. You had the Christian tradition, and you had a couple of others as well, and that was really cool. Billy, I believe, was Jewish, so you got the Jewish tradition in there as well. And it's just, you can have all these differences and not be a douchebag about it, and that was so cool. That just stuck with me, and that's why I don't like to see everybody in such disarray. And then moving on forward with games and stuff, or South Park, I would stay up late at night to watch South Park. Love their commentary, love their jokes. That's a great series. But yeah, that's why I love it. Fantastical elements brought in to real life situations, showing you how you can get through them, even if it is fantastical, based in reality. And that's why fantasy is so popular. It's fantastical stuff, but you can bring it back and see the real life situations. Like, we talk about Game of Thrones a lot, and we're massive Game of Thrones fans. they have like all this dragons and stuff, but then when you really look at what the source is, just people trying to survive, it's really relatable. So let's get to the third question of this podcast. What keeps you here? What keeps you always coming back to this lifestyle, and why, in your own words, do you love it?
Okay, good. You said lifestyle. I thought you were saying here, and it's like, well, it's my house. Sleeping here is why I like it. Well, to the lifestyle, it really kind of just comes down to what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It means just the form of entertainment, and it's like I like it. I mean, people kind of go into stuff like the community and stuff, and that can serve well, like community wise.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's like I don't really care. Like that's why I've never been thrown off by bad communities when going into something. Even when it's shitty, because it's like, yeah, I just watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to it, it's like, as long as it's still entertaining, then I'm gonna keep coming back to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just really kind of the root of the element is. It's like, just like people are gonna keep coming back for football as long as they're entertained by it. Even if people get in fights at the football stadiums or just be shitty, or like your football team sucks, you're still probably gonna watch them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, it's just way you're entertained. And I would actually go as far as to say that I would say that people who watch sports are still actual geeks in their own right. Like, we kind of put, like the term as geek as like a negative terminology when it was first put in, and like this kind of outside kind of culture stuff, they kind of put it in there. But when you go down to it, like, being a geek is just being very obsessive about something, really being dedicated to something, not just watching it and kind of like moving on, but really being very big on it. So it's like, if you watch every football game out there, their stats, all the players. It's like, that's a geek too. Do the same about music, the same about any TV shows.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because for college I made a documentary titled "Jocks versus Geeks: Not So Different After All," and I've always had that same mindset. A jock is a geek for sports.
Yeah.
Usually athletic. Jocks are usually just athletic and they actually do things, but then there are those out there that aren't able to, and they're the ones playing fantasy football. Their fantasy football is also Magic the Gathering, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Like, you can't tell me there's that big of a difference from someone who's a big baseball fan who can like look at a player on his favorite team and tell you his RBI stats and all his other stats, and tell me there's a difference between that guy and someone who can look at a Pokemon and tell you all its stats.
Exactly.
It's the same concept, really. Even when it comes to geeky lifestyle, it's like, I think everyone to some extent is geeky. And
that's another reason why I wanted to do this podcast. It's also just to show people out there that geeks, it's not a negative thing. It's it can be very negative, but it's also a very positive thing. And it's something that is basically instilled in us at childhood. When we're growing up and we're learning how to be geeks, whether it's for sports, comics, movies, or whatever the crud. That's basically what's going down here. So it was really cool you brought that up.
Yeah, I would say anyone who isn't a geek for something, I would feel sad for them, because that just means they're not passionate about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anything. Like, if you back in the 90s, if you went and watched every episode of Pokemon or Power Rangers when they came out, or if you watched every episode of 90210 and talked about it with your friends after they came out, it's the same concept.
Mm-hmm.
You're just a geek. You just maybe a geek to something more popular and mainstream.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
And that's another huge thing. People think geeks are just all these non-mainstream stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times it's to do with Game of Thrones is one of those rare exceptions where it is super popular with more than just the geeks. But you can also see how the geeks are doing more with Game of Thrones, where they have their own podcasts or where they have their own episodes of podcasts. Wink. But yeah, and then people are like, oh yeah, you're only a geek if you know Batman's full rogues gallery. Like, no, you can be a geek even if you don't know that. But most of the time, people who are fully identify as geeks are usually like you and I, where we want to go to the Comic-Con conventions, we want to read comics and manga, or we want to watch cartoons, anime, or fantastical movies, like Alita Battle Angel, or what do you call it? Middle Earth movies like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. I feel like I really knew I was a geek when I read the Hobbit book in one day, in one sitting. That's when I knew. I was just like, yeah, I'm a total geek, and I love it.
I think you read something that could be stretched out into 3-hour movies. Must did a lot of work there, huh?
Definitely didn't need 3. I heard the last one, Battle for 5 Armies, was the best.
You ever seen the original animated one? They made an animated Hobbit.
Didn't, but I've always wanted to.
I saw like the last half of it.
I've always wanted to. Never was able to, unfortunately.
They also made an animated Lord of the Rings, but it was just one movie, so they had to cut a lot of stuff to try to make it work.
What was really funny is my family had that on VHS, but for the longest of times never let me watch it. So I never actually seen the animated one, but I really wanted to.
So we'll see why you like the Lord of the Rings so much. Is the forbidden fruit.
Oh, but yeah, just seeing the because it was at the battle. It was on 2 towers, and they were at the castle. I can't remember what the castle's name was
I
now.
have trouble with names, so I don't think I can help you.
But I was watching that battle, Gimli and Legolas, with such great banter, such great chemistry, was just completely and utterly captivating. The battle itself was intense and amazing. And then going back, it was just like, I need to see how we get to this point. And then getting to see The Return of the King after, and the fact that it won Best Picture, it just gives you that solidification of, yes, this culture is finally on the rise, and finally it's going to be big. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, that's a really groundbreaking moment, because the Oscars will pick something. They will like ignore something that's really good and outstanding just because they don't think it's the right image for them. The Dark Knight Returns. No, not Dark Knight. Just the second one is a good case for that, because nearly everyone would say that at least should have been nominated. Then they had to change the rules because there was such a backlash for nominations.
Yeah. With some of the greatest performances of all time in that film, and a lot of good commentary about what is a hero versus what is a villain.
Yeah, like I said, I just still need to get back to it. And
yeah,
I don't know. You know, whatever to see it around. Maybe check Netflix. See if they have it. I was surprised to see that they actually had some of the animated stuff on Netflix.
Yeah, there's a few good stuff in there. And also with Netflix being as big and popular as it is today, but we get new and crazy shows like The Umbrella Academy and some really good anime. Right now, Do Da 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 is on there, which is phenomenal, and it's very urban fantasy.
There was something that I was like, when I got back to having the internet, try to get on Netflix to watch, and it was the Umbrella Academy. Completely forgot about that. Oh, you know what's interesting? One of the main characters, the main people in the Umbrella Academy. Did you see any of it, or?
I haven't watched the show yet, but I will be starting it soon enough.
It's number one. They all have like numbers instead of actual. Well, they get names, but they were just originally given numbers. But the one who plays number one also played Digard Tolly from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting connection. I saw that the other day.
It's amazing all the geeky connections from the cast in that show, because you have Robert Sheehan. I don't know if you know who that is. He's the one who was very flamboyant and has hello and goodbye tattooed on his hand.
Oh yeah. It's number 4, number 3.
Oh,
Seance is his like superhero name. It's called Seance because that's about his power.
Well, he was in a show called The Misfits, where he was immortal in the series, and it was a very really good UK show. And then he was also in the movie adaptation of Mortal Instruments City of Bones, which is a book series I've read. And then Ellen Page, she's in it. She's Shadowcat, number 3, the third actress to play Shadowcat, and that's really, really awesome. And she's done a lot in film in general, so it's really cool to see her go do a different comics series. And then a couple of the other actors and actresses I haven't really seen yet, but I can only imagine that they have some connection to something geeky. There's a new show on Sci-Fi right now that's based off of a comic series called Deadly Class or something like that, where it's a bunch of teenagers learning how to become assassins.
I mean, I got that exactly from the name.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's
and Benedict Chow.
That's kind of how common that theme is.
Yeah. And then Benedict Chow is the instructor in the series. He's also known for being Wong in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is really cool. So a lot of, like we've been saying, a lot of the geeky stuff is really getting more and more popular, which is awesome, especially for us.
Yeah.
So any last and final thoughts you would like to share to our audience?
No, I don't think today, But did you have any last thoughts?
It's a great day and a great time to be a geek.
Okay.
That's the only thing I can think of. All right. Yeah. Tune in next week, because it's a big, big week. Because I will be hanging out here, I think, with Liam for quite some time to watch episode 1 of season 8 of Game of Thrones. So next week, our episode 2 of the Bare Bones Geeky Podcast.
It's going to be Star Wars related.
No, it's going to be about Game of Thrones.
Yes, making time for it.
So yeah, next week is going to be Game of Thrones episode. That's going to be a lot of fun. Next week we'll tell you exactly how we are going to focus in on it. Exactly.
Yeah, but I will definitely be getting one of those season 8 death pools. You seen those around? There's a few different copies about that.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to fill those out. See who's better at prediction.
But we'll figure out. We'll let y'all know the focus in next week, and we'll just go from there. It was a good little episode, and we have a good 30 minutes to just relax before WrestleMania stuff. Reason why I say that, go to our other channel, our sister channel, Smart Wrestling Alliance. We will be live in about 30 minutes over there. And it's going to be a long day.
Yeah.
Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Might as well bring that over here as well. If you like what we do, if you like this video, please give us those sexy likes.
And the unsexy ones.
And then go and share this to all of your friends.
And enemies.
After you do that, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, Skele Ton Productions. So that way you are a part of the Skeleton Army. And then go and ring the notification bell because...
You want to get notified for when this podcast airs. You don't want to miss this. And then any other times you put out any type of info, polls, maybe some type of other videos, like a supplement, you get notified for it.
Like,
so why wouldn't you want
Anna
to?
Mondays.
Yeah, Anna Mondays. He does anime reviews on Mondays, which is why it's called Anna Mondays. So you get notified, you get to see those. And who wouldn't want to see those?
Exactly. If you don't know a lot about anime and you're interested, come watch our show. Come watch and just learn about anime. Where can we find you, Liam?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Liam_SWA.
And you can also follow me on Twitter, but at a different handle, of course, at IsaJ_STP. Please comment below. Let us know what you think about the geeky lifestyle. Let us know why you are a part of the geeky lifestyle, and also let us know what brought you into the geeky lifestyle. We're obviously the friendship and the bonds and the entertainment keeps us here, and as long as that doesn't go away, we'll be geeks for the rest of our days. All right, guys. Until next time, it will be awesome. See you later, everybody.
See you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.